Welcome back to the Running Around the World podcast. Liam, you did another ultra marathon this past weekend and clearly you survived. So, what's the story?
Yes, so this is a happy ending, but not 100% happy. Not ecstatic ending.
An ambiguous ending.
Yes, I survived. Ambiguous, up to personal interpretation ending. Yeah, so this week I did a 100-kilometer run. This week it did not get canceled in the middle of the race, for better or for worse. So I'll, yeah, get straight into it. Um, Basically everything was great up until about 40 kilometers. I'll put it that way. And an ultra marathon is a special thing where if I say up to 40 kilometers, it's not even halfway. So many mistakes were made along the way. Many things were learned.
Passive voice.
1 week, yes, 1 week before, as I mentioned in the last episode, I did another 100 kilometers, which got canceled, but I went through it anyways. Then I might have ran every single day after that, a little bit, like ran a few kilometers here and there. Wednesday morning, I did a little bit of a, not super fast, but a bit of a tempo run. Thursday, I had some free time and I ended up joining someone for a run around Namsan Tower, which is a hilly run. And I didn't know this group actually goes really fast. So I said, oh yeah, I'll do 2 laps like usual. And they were really fast. So to keep up, I had to like, because also they don't go all the way up the hill. It's a beautiful spot in the Seoul. One day I'll talk about it some other time, I'm sure. But there's this big steep hill, and if you go almost all the way up, but not all the way up, it's such a waste. I feel like I came so close, might as well go the extra steep part. So to catch up, I had to barrel down the downhills in my sandals. So I did not leave room for recovery. About 36 hours, about 38 hours after that is when this 100K ultramarathon started. Many mistakes were made, one of which was I got about 4.5 to 5 hours of sleep the night before, not recommended. Left at 5:40 a.m. to catch the 6 a.m. subway, so I could get there for the 10 a.m. start because it is on the very end of the line. I kind of had to take a long time, a few transfers along the way. Turns out I was looking at the schedule for weekdays, not weekends, so it took longer to get there than I thought. I had to walk there from the subway station. Got there about 9:40, so 4 hours after I left, no sleep yet, no time to warm up or anything because I also had to go to the bathroom. I get there, quickly get my bib, go to the bathroom, put my stuff on, and it's I look, oh, it's 9:58, starts in 2 minutes. I quickly get my dinosaur bib on and I'm running to the start as people are leaving, and I just go. Not a great way to start. No warm up of any kind. No calm yourself down before 100 kilometers when you're not rested. Anyways, the race has finally started. Starts off well in a parking lot, flat most of the way for about 2 kilometers. Then it starts to get uphill on roads,
It's 2%.
um, 2%. And yeah, then it starts to get uphill, which is fine. I like walking. Um, and it's gradual uphill, and then there's suddenly a steep road uphill. And the one last week was all roads, no trail. This one, after a steep road uphill, and I barreled it down the downhill. Why? That is a good question in retrospect. I was just feeling good. And I, of course, as a dinosaur in sandals while playing the flute. And this is, I know it's my fault. Yes, I make the decision to do this, but I think part of the reason I struggled is because people kept asking me to play the flute. And now they've seen me play the flute while running. If I don't play it, they get disappointed. And I think I can't let them down. I have to run faster, play harder, do more all at the same time. And so that caught up with me this race. So yes, it's 50K out and back. After about 10K, after the first aid station, it is completely trail. And I'm wearing sandals. And they are running sandals, but there are lots of rocks and lots of problems along the way. One interesting problem I've never had before, as my feet are running, the front foot lifts, and I guess as it would lift, it would sometimes kick a rock up into the air, and my back foot would come forward to try and take the next step, and it would basically kick the rock that was in the air, which hurts a lot because there's no padding of any kind on the top of my sandal. So basically, someone's throwing a rock at my feet, except I'm throwing the rock at my feet and they're unprotected. I'm also kicking it at the same time. So, anyways, there was a lot of pain for most of this run. Things are still going well. Um, Interestingly enough, I met someone from Abbotsford during the run, and I lived in Surrey, which is very close to Abbotsford. That was a nice positive. But anyways, going up and down these trails, in total, my Strava said there was about 2,200, 2,300 meters of elevation gain. Lots of uphills, up and down, up and down. Starts at 10 a.m. Weather was nice at first. Started off a bit warm, but started to get cool, lots of wind. And I could see in the distance, oh, was that fog? Was that cloud? Or is that like rain coming in? Turns out it was rain. At about the 50K mark, I actually from about 40K mark, I started to feel some uncomfortableness in my left tibialis, aka front of the shin, aka some people might say the shin splint area. I don't know if it was a shin splint exactly, but I started to feel discomfort. And I felt that a few weeks ago when I was doing my Da Nang to Hoi An run, and I stopped and walked, and after a day it was fine. But this time it started at 40 kilometers and I still had a lot to go, 60 kilometers more. So I kind of slow jogged, walked a bit to 50, had some food, started coming back, and was okay until 60. But then it hit me, I could do no more running at all. And now it started raining, and I realized I forgot my rain poncho at home and my good flashlight. So I got soaked for about an hour and a half, which got cold. Because I didn't have my flashlight. I had a weak headlamp, and because of the cloud and rain, rain mostly stopped, but such low visibility, and now it's dark on this trail. A wide trail, not very technical, but still uncomfortable, can barely see anything. It's just miserable, and I have to walk 40 kilometers. I'm thinking I'm not going to finish this one. This is the big one. I'm not going to make it. It's probably for the best I don't do this. Thinking all my options, still walking. And then at one point, I found a big stick to use as a walking stick, which helped me keep going. And suddenly, I get passed by someone with a strong flashlight, and he says he's 72 years old, and he's now passing me. He's a fast runner. Or he's a fast walker at this point, and he says, "Oh, we can still get in by 3 a.m. if we just keep up 12-minute kilometers." And the time limit is 5 a.m. So I'm happy with the time limit, but he wants to make 3 a.m. and he wants to go together. So I keep up with him until about 80K. But then on the way in, I guess there was a couple kind of really, really technical trail parts that I did not expect to be so technical and dangerous even in the daylight. So now that it's nighttime, it's pretty sketch and not very safe. So we have no choice but to walk no matter our condition. And at this point, I've gotten a second stick, like going hiking downhill in this steep, narrow path with an injury. And it was brutal, like 20 minutes per kilometer, probably at that point. 15K to the end, wasn't too bad. It was mostly downhill. Um, but it was rough. And I remember the last 10K was back on the streets again, and it was dark. I was completely alone now. I couldn't keep up with the 72-year-old, and there were like dogs chained outside of houses, barking at me, like big muscular dogs. I thought, oh, if they didn't have that chain, I would die right now. They would eat me. But I eventually made it with 27 minutes to spare, 18 hours and 33 minutes, finished at 4:33 in the morning. I survived. So yes, I finished and it's now been 2 days and I still can't walk properly. Going to eat lunch, it's taking me about 26 or 27 minutes per kilometer just to walk to lunch and back. And it's been rough. So I survived, but I definitely pushed myself too far and made some mistakes.
Well, the first step is admitting your mistakes. Second step is not running so much.
Yes. And the third step, which is should not apply to most people is in this race, the 50K, there's a 50K and 100K, and about an hour after we start, the 50K starts and run backwards. So they all pass us. And there were lots of people I knew, and so many of them, even though I was downhill focusing on the road or the trail, they kept saying, play the flute, which egged me on to keep playing and running more dangerously. So that definitely contributed to my injury. It's my fault. I made the mistake, but I also give them a slight blame for what happened.
Yeah, you would have had like another half hour to spare if it weren't for all that flute playing.
Exactly.
Did you have to run a bit at the end to make sure you made the cutoff time?
Thankfully not. I At that point I had gotten a second walking stick. I had really gone fast in the beginning and set up a solid time to get there, which obviously contributed to overdoing it. But there was no run power left in me. Even just getting home from the subway station took about an hour, and it's like 2 kilometers. It was brutal. I
You're
could
like
barely walk
crawling.
at all. Yeah, basically. And people were staring at me. Even today, people stare at me as I walk more than usual. And they're probably thinking, oh, that poor man, he can't even walk.
He's crippled.
And yeah, basically. So it's been an interesting couple days. I hope it heals soon. I have no sense of how long it might take. So, well, the next few days at least are recovery.
Probably a good idea.
Yes.
For the rock thing, I'm curious about that. Is that something that happened consistently, or was it just every once in a while you accidentally kicked a rock into your other foot?
It happened every few minutes on the rocky part of the trail. I haven't had it happen this much before, so it was new at this amount of consistency. So that was a bit unexpected. So yeah, that was very frustrating.
That's the first time I've heard that. Okay. And mm, out and back is kind of the second worst type of course, the other being just lap after lap after lap. So do you think that it would make the race better if they did a different course, or are you okay with out and back for that long?
To be honest, for this race, I think out and back was better because we knew what to expect. Especially when it got dark, there was such low visibility. It was, I think, could have been quite dangerous. I think too low visibility, and the course was very poorly marked. There was one point I had
Mm.
to argue with people saying, no, that's not the way, that's not the way. Trust me. I remember we came this way. And they're like, no, I remember we went this way. Like we went up that way, but we're going back. We have to go down this way. And so that was a contributing thing because we already came this way. I remembered I was lucky, but we very easily could have gotten lost if we didn't already come that way. And we did already come that way and still almost got lost. So in this case, it was good because of the low visibility on the way back. But in general, I agree, out and back is not very fun.
Last question. At the beginning, you mentioned you did some training in the city up that hill. Is it
Yes.
safe in Seoul to run fast on the street? Because I would never do that in Beijing. I get hit by a
Ah,
motorcycle.
yes, this street is completely blocked off for pedestrians,
Oh,
runners, or walkers.
huh. They specifically close it off for that purpose?
It's like a nice walking path. Actually, there is a bus road, but it's separate, and so we're isolated from that. So yeah, this part is completely cut off from for walkers and runners. So it is, yeah, very safe. It's nice, like a nice
Hmm.
walking path around the mountain.
Oh, cool. And for training.
Yeah. Yes, lots of people run there. It's very popular.
Well, my story for this past weekend is much more normal
That's good.
and enjoyable. So I ran the Great Wall, not the whole thing, just 20 kilometers. And this one is in Badaling. So there are different parts of the Great Wall. It's all one wall. Actually, some parts it kind of ends and then starts again. But if you include the whole thing, it's like over 4,000 kilometers, which is about how long it takes to take the train from Vancouver to Toronto. That's how long the whole Great Wall is. And when people talk about different locations, it's like a section of the wall. And Badaling is the most popular one. So if you're visiting Beijing and you go to the Great Wall, you're probably going to go to Badaling. It's like the biggest touristy one, and it's quite close to the city. So my new friend and I, he's from Ireland. We met in the WeChat group about this race. We were both looking for anyone who wanted to split on a combination. So his name's John, and I went and picked him up, and then we took a taxi from his place straight to the race kit pickup, which was about an hour. Yeah. You can take the train, but I looked at the map and it would take like, I'd have to take a taxi to the train and then we'd have to get there at a certain time. The train's super cheap. It's like $5 to get to Badaling. But uh, then we'd have to get from the train station to accommodation. And it's very limiting that way in terms of time. If you just take a taxi, you can go whenever and split two ways. It was a pretty good way to go. We did that and then we got like, I guess you'd call it a homestay. It's basically just someone has a house and they rent it out to people who want to stay for the weekend or whatever. And it's all self check-in. Basically the same idea as Airbnb, but in China it's not through Airbnb. Same idea. So we did that, and that was a really good deal. I think it was about $60 for the night, split two ways, and like a two-bedroom full apartment, the kitchen and everything. And it was quite close to both the race pickup start line and finish line. The race pickup was actually quite well organized. It was one of those ones where there are lots of steps, like you have to go here and then go here and then go there. But each step was actually quite fast. So it was a little bit confusing at first, but the overall time was quite short. And then John had the great idea of running 30 kilometers with no training. And this Badaling is quite notorious for being super steep. So he made it, but I imagine it was a pretty long one. And they had to give anyone who's doing 30 kilometers or more like a GPS tracker. So you had to pay a deposit for that. But for 20 kilometers, you didn't need one. Even for 30 kilometers or more, I don't think it's really necessary. And so the gun off time was at 6 in the morning, and 30K was 5 minutes earlier. So 5:50, and then we were at 5:55. And the race itself was quite well organized. Like everything started on time, things were easy to find. And I met a bunch of people from the running group that I go to in Beijing. So it's kind of a well-knit community. Even if you're from a different running club, there's a lot of overlap. Everybody kind of knows each other. So I met up with a lot of them. And then there were people from all different countries. I heard lots of Japanese. And it's because it's the Great Wall, right? So it attracts a lot of people from different countries. And the first maybe quarter of it was on the Great Wall. So a lot of ramps and steps. And one pretty unique thing about this course was that there was almost no flat ground. It was either going up or going down. After we got off the wall, we were in the mountains surrounding the Great Wall. So it kind of goes on the ridge of the mountains. And then we were like going along it and then in and out of the mountains. There's a pretty well marked trail, pretty easy to find, and got really steep in some points. Lots of mud. Conditions were great. It was about 11 degrees and overcast. So no rain and no crazy heat or wind or anything like that. It was great. Once we got up pretty high, I think the highest point we reached was about 1,200 meters above sea level. It was so foggy that it kind of rained, so I should have brought like a light rain jacket. You know, the ones that you can just scrunch up into a little ball and stick in your pocket or your pack or whatever. Yeah, I should get one of those for next time. And it was a really good vibe. Like everyone was pretty chill. Some people wanted to go fast. Like there was this one guy who kept on either being in front of me or behind me. He would like rush on the downhills, even though it's super dangerous. Oh, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. He'd rush past everyone, and then he'd stop and take videos, and then everyone would pass him, and then he'd rush past us again. But fortunately, people like that were a minority. Everyone was actually pretty cool and casual and chatting. that kind of thing. And then the last 4 or 5K, it's usually downhill, right? For one of these. The last 4 or 5K was back on the wall again. And sometimes it would go up and down. It would be so steep that it was basically like climbing a ladder. Like the steps were so steep that you couldn't see the top when you were on the steps. And there were quite a few people who were afraid of heights. So they should probably put some kind of warning on the event details. And because yeah, it was pretty steep. And then coming down, we actually got to do a bit of running. There wasn't a whole lot of running the whole time. It was mostly just up or down. And then coming down, we'd kind of run a little bit. But all in all, it was mostly like a long hike. So 20K, it took me about 4 hours, 17 minutes. Yeah. And then most of the people that I knew were finished around that time, maybe give or take a few minutes. And then afterwards, they they always give funny kind of souvenirs in China. This time they gave a stick. It's like I don't even know what it's for. Kind of like a baton, and I think it's for massaging your calves, like rubbing up along your calves. Yeah, either that or you can use it for other things that you use a stick for. I don't know. And they had this tent with all kinds of food, and you could just grab whatever food you wanted. And they even had beer, even though it was like 10 in the morning. Sure, why not? And they had coffee and different kinds of, I don't know, soup and stuff like that. And people were just hanging around having a good time. It was like a big party, basically. And then there was another tent where they had people who stretch you. The stretchers this time were really gentle. I was like, oh, that's it? Okay. I could have done that myself. Thanks. But it was free. And then massages were like uh, $10 for 15 minutes. Yeah. And then there is an ice bath where you can put your feet in it if they're sore or whatever. But yeah, very well organized and really great experience. When we first started, it was just right at the sunrise. So we all got to watch the sunrise while running on top of the Great Wall. And I've been to the Great Wall and Badaling a long time ago, but this was way more interesting because you're with a huge group of people. You're all kind of doing the same thing, and it's challenging, but it's also fun, and you've got a great view. Much more fun than just going as a tourist and just crowding with all the other tourists. Yeah, so it was awesome, and that was the Badaling Great Wall Trail Challenge or something like that.
Wow. Sounds like a very special one. Have you been to this section of Badaling Great Wall before?
Yes, but not as a trail run.
Great.
As far as I know, they didn't have these last time I lived in China 10 years ago.
Oh, okay. Cool. And so then were there other tourists on the wall while you were running, or was it blocked off for the
Hmm.
event, or is it generally low on tourists?
That's a good question. Usually it's super packed with tourists, like you can't even walk kind of thing, especially on a weekend. I think they closed off the part that we were using, and then
Oh,
they had other parts because Badaling is still pretty big, right? Like maybe they have 3 or 4 different ticket centers where you can buy a ticket, and they just closed off that one part. But then the finish line was at another part, and then 30K would be at another part. Yeah, I don't know logistically how they did that, but there was definitely some closing off. And then they might have opened back up parts of it after the cutoff time. Yeah, because
that
the
makes
finish line
sense.
was different for each distance. Yeah, so after the cutoff time, maybe they'd pack everything up. But they seem to know what they were doing.
Oh, that's good to hear. And you also mentioned stretchers and getting massages. So different people were stretching you and massaging you.
Yeah, yeah. The stretchers I haven't seen in any other countries, but it's basically they have yoga mats on the ground and you basically just lie down and they have people who stretch your legs. Like you lie on your
Okay.
back and they push your heel up towards your head and hold it there, and then you do your other leg. Then you lay on your stomach and they, I don't know, push your foot towards your back. They stretch you. Is that common in
Okay,
Korea?
that's good. I've never seen that. I've only
Hmm.
seen people giving massages.
Oh, well, you got to come to China and do a marathon and then
Yeah,
experience the
that's
The handy stretchers.
Yeah. I am kind of afraid of heights, so I don't know if this race is the right one for me, but I'll think about it.
Sounds good. Okay, well, that's all for this episode. Who are our sponsors?
Um, our sponsors are free stretching given by
Hmm.
a stranger.
It's funny that you think that free stretchers wouldn't be sponsoring.
Yeah.
They sponsor
Well,
us
and I
with
think
stretching.